Gears wheezed, and the door cranked open, revealing the Primarch standing at the threshold, with one hand on the controls, towering over the Lord Commander. Corlin stepped back, his agitation suddenly cowed by the dominating presence.
There is a reason I have not answered your communications, Lord Commander Corlin,
growled the Primarch. He turned away, and Corlin relaxed slightly, as though released from an invisible grip. Vulcan waved towards his workbench, where his hammer lay on the top, the innards of its head splayed across the surface.
I have my own labors to attend to. What is so urgent that it demands my personal attention?
The attack on Ulanor has begun.
That seems precipitous. I have monitored the data channels. I saw no indication that the location of the Great Beast has been identified. Where are you attacking?
Bohemond has launched an assault on the planet. Corlin uttered the words as calmly as possible, not wishing to show discomfort in front of the Primarch. He swallowed hard, his annoyance at Bohemond's challenge to his authority, overtaking his vexation at Vulcan's self-imposed solitude. A reconnaissance in force, Lord Vulcan, he continued. Adeptus Astartes companies will secure the ground, then we will establish the location of the Great Beast from intelligence gathered on the surface. The Adeptus Mechanicus and Astra Militarum will commit their forces when the primary target is located. Vulcan raised his eyebrows as he looked back, leaning over the table. His fingers continued to work at the exposed cables of his weapon, pushing them back into the head of Doomtremor.
You are making a landing without exact knowledge of the Great Beast's whereabouts.
Corlin had nothing to offer. He shook his head and looked away, unable to meet the Primarch's inquiring look. The initiative was Bohemond's, not mine, Lord Primarch.
I see.
Vulcan finished his work quickly and set his hammer aside. He pulled forward a screen on an articulated arm, and his fingers danced over the runepad below. Without looking at him, Vulcan gestured to Corlin to approach.
These are the findings from the Adeptus Mechanicus flights, yes?
Corlin looked at the screen and nodded. There are still 3 possible sites, he said. Nothing pinpoints a specific location. All we have from the psychic scan is a name, Gorkogrod. The landing is blind to all intents. Interference is still wreaking havoc with surveyors and communications. The only option is to seek out what we want on the ground. We can take prisoners, find out where Gorkogrod is located.
A justification after the event,
Vulcan said, quietly.
Bohemond has forced you into premature action. He has already chosen your only option.
Perhaps, conceded Corlin. He clenched a fist. We cannot afford the luxury of blame at this moment. What has happened cannot be changed. The consequences have to be dealt with. Bohemond has a point, Lord Primarch. Time is not our ally. We must commit to action sooner rather than later. We do not know how long until the Orcs attack Terra again. Perhaps even now the throne world is assaulted. Vulcan held his hand up to the flickering screen, as if communicating with it, fingers not quite touching its surface. His brow knotted in thought and relaxed.
Here,
he declared.
This is Gorkogrod. Here you will find the Great Beast.
Corlin looked. Vulcan had not chosen one of the cities approached by the Adeptus Mechanicus flights. By coincidence, it was the closest to Bohemond's impending planetfall. Are you sure, Lord Vulcan? Why this one? Vulcan looked sharply at him, and he flinched, fearing he had angered the Primarch.
Is my word not enough, Lord Commander Corlin?
Should it be? Corlin asked cautiously. He had no desire to anger the Primarch further, quite the opposite, but Vulcan's manner and actions since his return had been erratic. I do not mean to doubt your word, Lord Vulcan. There is so much at stake, I need to be certain. How can you know that this is the place?
You must learn to show a little faith, Corlin.
Vulcan pushed away the screen and folded his arms.
And you must also learn that certain things happen in a certain way. War has a pattern, a form. It follows specific paths to known ends. We seek confrontation with the Great Beast. That confrontation will occur. The narrative of war demands it.
I still don't understand. What narrative? War is not a story, Lord Vulcan.
War is always a story, Corlin, told by the victors, shaped by the survivors.
The Primarch sighed, not in frustration, but resignation.
The Orcs respect only power. To defeat the Orcs requires a greater power. Our presence here, our attack, is a challenge to the Great Beast. Never forget that it is an Orc, nothing more. It must prove itself, It can do nothing but show its dominance over a foe. It can no more resist the law of battle than a predator can resist the urge to pounce for the kill.
That does not explain how you can know that this city is Gorkogrod, Lord Vulcan.
More than 1,500 years ago, the Great Crusade of the Emperor came to this world. Horus himself bested the warlord that ruled here, and a great triumph was held in honor of the victory. On this world, the orcs were broken. On this world, humans proved their dominance.
And the orcs have reclaimed it. Corlin moved past the Primarch and looked at the conglomerations of lines and figures that denoted the Orc City. This world was lost again generations ago, but nobody noticed. The orcs have taken it back. But there is something more. Zukov's tech priests posit that this latest expansion is a new phase of war. The cities have cannibalized smaller settlements to grow.
A catalyst, a signal,
said Vulcan.
Symbols matter, Corland, especially to the primitive minds of the orcs. The narrative, the story of Ulanor. One rises, others follow, greater than any for 1,500 years. Where would such a creature build its capital?
Corlin considered the question, trying to imagine the thought process of an orc. To prove it was the most powerful, it had to overcome the biggest foe, be the most important thing on the planet. The triumph. Corlin looked at the screen again. This is where the triumph ended. Vulcan nodded.
Here the Emperor stood, greatest warlord of all time. Here 9 of his sons stood, lording their father. Here he named Horus as War Master. We know what happened next.
Vulcan tapped the screen, the sound like a normal man's fist thudding against a window.
Places remember such events. Worlds are marked by the passing of such beings. Where the Emperor treads, legends follow. Where else would an orc civilization start? Where else but at the very place where it ended?
Yes, I see it, said Corland. He activated a vox link to the command bridge. Thane, Gorkogrod has been located. Inform the fleet we have a target point. The narrative of war, the story of the orcs. He looked at Vulcan, marveling at the Primarch's perception. It seemed obvious in reflection, as most great insights did. Corland served as a chapter master of the Imperial Fists during the 32nd millennium. Known by his wall name, Slaughter, as he led the Second Daylight Wall Company of the Imperial Fists. This captain would be hurled into prominence following the battles waged on the world of Adamantua. Combating the insectoid Chrome Xenos during 554.M32, regarded for their metallic silver hides. This insectoid blister nest, though not inherently aggressive, laid waste to human colonies across as many as 67 planets in efforts to flee from a greater foe. Heeding the commands of his chapter master, Cassius Mirren, aiding the ministrations of the tech priest Phaeton Laurentis, at the height of the Chrome's campaign, wherein Laurentis observed signs of Chrome's surrender communiques, Captain Corland would unknowingly be present for the opening stages of the War of the Beast. The Imperial Fists, beset by an orc battle moon as its tractor beam consumed the shattered remains of Adamantua, Corland, though injured from the battle, would be saved by Laurentis and tended for his wounds by Magos Biologus, Eldon Ercodex. The tech priest and its artisan colleague, Argus van Auken, recovering the bodies of several Sons of Dawn as the duo attempted to heal 3 survivors from the devastation. Only Captain Corland would endure as the sole surviving Space Marine of his chapter entire. Mourning for the death of his chapter, now thrust into the position of de facto chapter master, as the remnants of Adamantua made haste for the throne world, orc chants proclaiming, "I am Slaughter," sounded across the void. The High Lords of Terra, refusing to inform the public of the Imperial Fist's demise. During such unprecedented times, Corland enacted Rogel Dawn's contingency plan to combat such peril, known as the Last Wall Protocol. Mustering several 7th Legion successor chapters within the File system, which commemorated the Imperial Fist sacrifices made during the era of the Horus Heresy, the Sons of the Praetorian of Terra would stand in defense of the Imperium during its hour of greatest need. Elements of the Black Templars, Excoriators, Crimson Fists, and Fists Exemplar answering the call to war. As an Orc attack moon cast its immense shadow over the throne world, the Space Marines would do what Lord Commander Udin Mac Udo and his Imperial Guard regiments could not. Reinforced by the Iron Knights chapter of Astartes, as 7 battle barges and 12 strike cruisers fired upon the attack moon. Though the Astartes incurred casualties from the moon's gravity lash, Corland led an attack party to invade its confines. Gifted a suit of Terminator armor by High Marshal Bohemond, once enshrined within the Phalanx Fortress Monastery. now returned to the inheritor of the Imperial Fists, glorious retribution was at hand. Strike Team Slaughter comprised of Courland, 2 Black Templars, an Iron Knight, Excoriator, and Fist Exemplar. As 300 Terminators distracted the Orcs within the moon, Courland's men targeted its gravity generators, liberating captured humans in the process. Informed of the presence of a gateway technology, allowing seemingly infinite Orcs to be transported within the attack moon, as the Sons of Dawn attacked on multiple fronts, outnumbered 20-1, melter charges were placed at its threshold before all Terminators teleport extracted from the fray, having disabled the moon. Awarded medals for their intervention by Lord Commander Udo, not realizing that such a victory was not a proverbial silver bullet to end the Orcs' predations. Though the High Lords of Terror demanded the last wall to be disbanded, the Scions of Dawn would not leave the Imperium defenseless. Courland reconstituting the shield corps of Daylight, Hemisphere, Tranquility, Bastion Lodge, Gate Zarathustra, and Ballad Lotus. Brethren of 7th Legion heritage adopted the Imperial Fist colours in order to prevent the populace from learning of the chapter's extinction. Reorganising his own squad of Wall Brothers Hemisphere, Eternity, Absolution, and Daylight, these kinsmen of the Excoriators, Crimson Fists, Black Templars, and Fist Exemplar stood fast by the physical embodiment of the Imperium's will. High Marshal Bohemond of the Black Templars and Maximus Fane of the Fist Exemplar, advising Courland through his political dealings with the High Lords of Terror. In his attempts to placate politicians, Courland acceded to their demands to allow orders from the Adeptus Terra. Quickly realizing that his superiors were nothing of the sort, due to their own laxities heightening the conflict to which they found themselves. Following Lord Commander Udo's banishment of the representative of the Emperor's Holy Inquisition from the Senatorum, Courland enacted a political coup to restore order. Allied to the Grand Master of the Assassinorum, Draken Vangerich, the aged Inquisitor once known as Kirill Sinderman, Veritas, Inquisitor Margareth Wynand, and Grand Provost Marshal Vernal Zek. Now aided by such strong arms of the bureaucratic machine, Courland was named Lord Commander of the Imperium in Udo's stead. Learning of fabricated General Kubik's experiments, attempting to utilize the Orc innovations in teleporting vast celestial bodies across the expanse of space, Courland's political maneuvering with the Martian High Lord gleaned insight as to where the Orc stronghold was based. Transmitting a call to arms to assault the epicenter of the resurgent Orc Empire. Before such an offensive could be enacted, reports of the return of the Salamander's Primarch, Vulcan, required investigation. Combating Orcs on the world of Caldera, known during the Great Crusade as 1544, this planet, settled by Nocturnian descendants, had been liberated by the Lord of Drake centuries prior from the predations of the Drukhari. Aiding Vulcan's defense of the world from the Beast's armies, Courland would be commended as a true son of Rogel Dawn. The Unbound Flame, though reluctant to leave his charge, aiding Courland's mission to invade Ullanor. Returning to the Throne World, finding allies of the Ultramarines, Blood Angels, Space Wolves, and Dark Angels ready to combat the Orc headquarters, having fought attack moons on their own within their domains. Such primogenitors would not stand idle as Terra burned. Vulcan advising Slaughter that he must embrace faith, not in the religious sense, but rather the interconnected nature of conflict as they ventured to Ullanor. Despite the brash actions of High Marshal Bohemond's unsanctioned deployment to the surface, his target proved to be the heart of the Orc Empire. Having lost only 20 Space Marines during their invasion effort, securing the planet within 10 days, Vulcan's assessment that the Orcs were holding back their forces would prove correct, as the Space Marines forged a path to the capital. Gorkogrod, capital of the Beast, built upon the foundations laid by the Emperor's triumph grounds of Ullanor. As the tension of battle rose, and each representative of the Sons of Dawn besieged its walls, a challenge would be made to depose Courland of his position. Vulcan deeming only a warrior capable of lifting his own Thunderhammer, Doomtremor, to be worthy of the title of Lord Commander, though Bohemond and Chapter Master Caesardra of the Crimson Fists proved incapable. Courland and his brother-in-arms, Maximus Fane, carried Doomtremor aloft, hurling it through a gate, barring their path to the Beast's lair. Vulcan's test of fighting united, rather than for solitary glory, rang true, as the united defenders of humanity carved a path through Gorkogrod. Confronting the Orc war boss, realizing that none other than the Primarch proved a match for its strength. Though dismayed at the Lord of Drake's order to withdraw from the battle, Courland honored the weary wisdom of the Salamander's Primarch, sacrificing his own life in efforts to slay the beast. As the Space Marines withdrew, to their horror, they realized that the attack moons had been little more than experiments, as Ullanor transformed into a vast attack planet, which would prove capable of sundering Terra itself. regrouping upon the throne world, analysing their efforts to quell the beast. Though having lost several chapter masters and a Primarch by its hands, the Space Marines confirmed that each Orc Psyker slain greatly diminished the forces to which they fought alongside. Courland establishing a new means to combat such a Xenos threat, the Death Watch, having seen the effectiveness of surgical strikes made by Battle Brothers of Myriad Krees. Though his new band of warriors daubed their armor in black, Courland retained the Amber of the Seventh. Launching an assault of the attack moon, which still loomed over Terra, utilizing fabricated General Kubik's most recent gravitic technologies. With half the attack moon teleported far from Terra, rending its form asunder, the Death Watch had won its first engagement. Entrusting the Wolf Lord Asker Warfist as the first watch commander of the Death Watch. Though only 3 Thunderhawks containing kill teams of disparate Space Marines have been successful, another creed of warriors would be required to bring the fight to the beast. Inquisitor Veritas, contacting the exiled Sisters of Silence upon the world of Nadiris. The besieged Null Maidens, led by Knight Abyssal Cavalanera Brasanus, repelled a concerted Orc attack on their fortress sanctuary. Courland aiding their plight, realizing that the Greenskins saw the Sisters as a threat to their empire's ascension. Upon their return to Holy Terra, Ecclesiarch Mesering decried the Astartes' assembling of mutants to defend the Emperor's fiefdom. Executing Mesering for proclaiming his maddened allegiance to the beast, as Courland demanded a return to the tenets of the Imperial Truth. In deference to the Imperial cult, the Ecclesiarchy's seat on the Senatorum was rescinded. The Sisters of Silence accompanying Courland's second invasion of Ulanor, now armed with new tactics, Astartes formations, and Vulcan's blessing as a true Lord Guilliman of the Imperium. His bespoke kill team of Sisters, Deathwatch Astartes, the assassin Essard Wire, and even Ogryns took to the field. Attempting to establish a reverse war field protected from a captured Orc Psyker tampered by the Null Maiden's Pariah Curse. Though successful in slaying an enormous Orc war boss, bearing the standing of the Beast of Ulanor, Courland's efforts would come to naught. Realizing 6 thrones to be enshrined within the Beast's sanctum, as the Orc which had slain Vulcan strode into its throne room, Courland deduced that 6 beasts had been working in tandem at the command of 6 Orc legions, and that asunder one had taken all he could muster. The Prime Orc slaying Lord Commander Courland, ending the line of the Imperial Fist chapter. As High Marshal Bohemond dragged his corpse from the fray, all hope for the Imperium's victory was lost. Maximus Fane of the Fist's Exemplar taking up the mantle of Imperial Fist Chapter Master in Courland's name. Though Courland would not survive the War of the Beast, lying in state upon Inwit, his example laid the path for his trusted kin to ensure victory, in the name of the Praetorian.